Hello there guys, Wahome here, and we want to build something. Now, what are we going to build? So this is what we're going to be building. This is what we're going to be building. This drop down that has some data. But now here's a catch. This data is going to be coming from an API and not from Firebase. So this is nothing related to Firebase. So this is an endpoint somewhere I've created in my live server, and I'm capturing this data from there. So we want to build something like this. So it's a drop down. Maybe you might add it somewhere in your form. This is just what we need. Now let's go ahead and create this. How do we do it? So I'm first going to delete the whole thing in FlutterFlow. Just going to delete it. Delete it like this. I'm just going to delete this because this is what we are going to be building afresh. Just delete it. So there we have a blank page. And let's go ahead and create our endpoint. So we have this endpoint here, which is basically an array. It's an object of an array. So I don't know. I don't think I should create it again. So this is how you create it. It's an object of an array. Now you realize you might be tempted to test this array. You might be tempted to test your endpoint with FlutterFlow, but I wouldn't really recommend using FlutterFlow for testing problems, because FlutterFlow doesn't give you errors. It only handles the responses that come from the JSON. Even if you go to an empty endpoint, it will still give you a success, but success meaning it found that route, but it did not really get the data. So the best way you do it is either use Postman, or you can use Insomnia to test your APIs. So right now I'm using this Insomnia to test my code. So I already have it here. You notice if I run this endpoint here, it will give me some responses. Don't worry about this, it's not related. If I run it, I get this array of objects here. Currency. All right, so I don't need anything here, so I'm just going to remove change this from JSON to nobody, and then let's run this. There we go. So we have these data from here. So this is an array of objects. So mostly whenever you're working with your endpoints, you'll be getting your data as an array of objects. So we need to capture every currency, the name of the currency that's coming from here. So that's what we need. So this is just something we created from here. Very good. Now let's test our endpoint in FlutterFlow. So I'm just going to come here and copy this endpoint. Just copy this endpoint. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it in FlutterFlow. So let's go to FlutterFlow and let's go to our APIs, and we are going to capture to create our endpoint. So you see I had already created our endpoint here, but for the sake of doing it together, let me just redo it. So I'm just going to delete this and I'm going to create the endpoint again. You notice that FlutterFlow now has a new approach to everything. We're going to come here and give it currency. Let's call it currency. There we go. Now let's slide our endpoint here. So this is a public endpoint, that's why I'm sharing it. So we have some advanced features here. I wouldn't recommend you use this if you are using an endpoint. If you are not using Firebase, don't use this. It will give you trouble. Don't use this one. No. Alright, so there we go. Now we have a new way of adding variables, but I'm not really going to look into this. It's out of the scope of this tutorial. So let's go ahead and just test the response. So let's go to the response part here. Just click on test API, and it should launch this area for us. Now you'll notice something when we are working on this, because if you had tried to do this area and you gave up, I might just have the problem solved for you. Let's see what I did there. I really made that very long. All right, so we save that and we go back to our code here. We're going to go to our front end and we want to now add the drop down. So just come here, create a row, click here, create a row. There you go. Now inside this row, we're just going to add our text drop down. Let's just add drop down. So let's just type here drop down. There we go. We have this drop down from here. Now we want to make this drop down call an API and populate that data from the API. There we go. So I just make this float at the center. So I'm going to come click on the row and make it float at the center. So basically we want that in there. There we go. Now this option here, it needs to be coming from an API. So instead of us adding the options manually, we need to add it from the API. So how do we do that? First, you are going to treat it like you are listing some data, like how you would list it when you need to show a list of posts, blogs, or whatever. And you're going to make this an API call. Now, this API is going to be coming from the API we just created right now called currency. Very good. Just click on confirm. That is the first step. Now, the second step is going back to the properties page where you're going to be designing it. And we need to go to where we have these options. So on top here, where we have set from variable, click on set from variable. And we need to be capturing from the currency response. So this is the API response. It's going to be JSON body and it's going to be a JSON path. Now you realize that our code looks like this. So technically, whenever you call the API, FlutterFlow does everything for you. It iterates through the array for you. So it's just going to be iterating through. So what you'll be working with is the JSON response. Now, let me make something very clear here. Don't be tempted to do this. We want to capture the row, the currency here. So because we are already told by FlutterFlow that this is a JSON body, you just might be tempted to do this. Nope, don't do that. Instead, add an extra dot there. There you go. So adding that extra dot is basically just going to now do whatever you wouldn't have done before. So it's just going to list our data here and display it in a checkbox. So that being done, that's all you need to do. Just click on run, and this should just generate our code for us. To generate the code for us. I'll pause and come back later. Alright, so now moment of truth. Let's go ahead and click on it. There we go, we have USD here. There we go. Now what would happen if we add another one from our endpoint? Let me try and add another one from our endpoint. So I'm just going to create another extra array. Copy. There we go. And let me just add that. So I'm just going to come here. Call it maybe Philippines something. Let me just save that. And let me go back. I'll have to reload it. Alright, there we go. So click on it, and there we go. We have our extra PHP value there. Really nice. So that's how you add a drop down from an API call. It's pretty cool stuff. In case this was your problem that was making you not to continue the project, have fun working with it. See you in the next video, guys. Bye for now.